your experience is conditioned by the mind. If you expect to fly through the wall easily and you fly through, then you realize that the expectation was important. But if you expect to have trouble and you bounce off the wall, then you see the qualities of the mind. A doubting mind cannot make it through the wall, but a mind that believes, a mind that expects to, goes through easily. So again, they use lucid dreaming experiences to validate Buddhist philosophy, and then fundamentally they get to the main important points of lucid dreaming, our dream yoga techniques, which is letting go of self and experiencing what it can be experienced when the self is deconstructed, is dissolved. So therefore, it's pretty complex, but that's the basic idea.
Great. Any books you can recommend or resources for dream yoga?
Well, anyone who wants to read up on it, I think I would suggest the books by Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche. He was a young kid. I think when he was 10 or 11, he attended the Dream Yoga Monastery for 3 years. In his first book, The Tibetan Yogas of Sleep and Dreams, or Dreams and Sleep, he said that when he was young in this Dream Yoga Monastery, that as they went into the 3-year course, some of the lessons were taught in the dream state. And the next morning, if you as a student hadn't shown up, or you showed up and weren't fully aware, then the other little kids would make fun of you because they had seen you in the class, but you weren't together. You didn't have your head together. So I want to tell you that this dream yoga philosophy is very deep. I think if I was going to read one of the proponents of it, I think he gives the truest and most explicit explanation. But some people, like when my first book came out, Lena, within a year, a Buddhist abbot wrote me from a large Buddhist temple in Europe. And this Buddhist abbot said that reading my first book explained to him more about dream yoga than what he learned in his 3 years at a dream yoga monastery in Asia. He said, because I put it in Western terms, he could understand it, and now he understood what the monks were trying to teach him. But he said when he was there in Asia, they presented it in a different way, in an Asian way, in a deep Buddhist philosophy way, and he couldn't follow it. But when he read my first book, he thought, oh my God, I finally get it. I get what they were saying. So even though my first book doesn't say dream yoga anywhere really within it, in many respects, it is a book on dream yoga, because I'm showing people how to deconstruct reality, or deconstruct their experience of reality.
I definitely agree. That's why I'm also interested to see the next level, even deeper edition of that. We have another question from Ayoka Brennan Davis, and that's, what is the longest perceived time you have experienced in a lucid dream, and what do you think is possible?
Well, I remember talking to a friend of mine, Fariba Bagzaran. She worked in the research lab of Stephen LaBerge there at Stanford on lucid dreaming. And she said one time she was there in the lab and watched the person signal with their eyes, moving their eyes left to right, that they were lucidly aware. And then that same person continued to do that off and on for 45 minutes. She said she couldn't believe that this person in the sleep lab was having a lucid dream and signaling their awareness every now and then, and this went on for 45 minutes. So there's some scientific evidence that you could have a lucid dream that goes on for 45 minutes. I would probably say that I've had lucid dreams that long. The only problem with having super long lucid dreams is this. Oftentimes it's hard to remember what happened at the very beginning. So if you have a lucid dream of like 20, 25 minutes, a lot of stuff can happen. And you can remember the last 5 or 10 minutes pretty clearly, but that first 10 or 15 minutes, it's like, wow, well, yeah, I remember how I became lucid, but oh yeah, a lot of stuff happened, but I just can't remember it. So that's why normally when you do an experiment in a lucid dream, you normally want to wake up as soon as possible so you have it crystal clear in your mind, because otherwise it'll be hard to remember.
Yeah. Another question is from James, and he asks, Robert, do you think lucid dreaming will ever be widely taught by therapists to help their patients instead of just prescribing drugs?
You know, so already some therapists use it to help people with recurring nightmares from PTSD. They teach them to become lucidly aware. And when those people become lucidly aware just once, then suddenly they no longer have nightmares. And so it doesn't take care of all the aspects of the PTSD, but it does take care of some. I think the beautiful thing is that more and more people are understanding what lucid dreaming is. They're starting to get that it could actually help a person psychologically or emotionally deal with trauma. You'll have wonderful stories of lucid dreamers overcoming fears, like fear of heights or fear of insects. I remember one lucid dreamer, she had a fear of insects, and she shrank herself down to the size of a cockroach, and then had a conversation with the cockroach and found out that they really weren't so bad after all. And she managed to work through her fear of insects. So I think all of that shows that people will learn that lucid dreaming can be used. But the way that I think it'll really help is people will suddenly begin to understand how the subconscious mind actually works. And then they'll be able to make more effective psychotherapeutic techniques for everyone, because they'll understand the basis of the subconscious and unconscious mind. And so that's where I think it'll really help the most.
That's great. And this actually possibly the opposite side of another question we had from Ivan Hernandez, who submitted something ahead of our stream. And he asked, in all of your career at lucid dreaming, are there any risks to lucid dreaming, honestly? And this question always comes up, and I don't even know why this question always comes up.
Well, it comes up. You know, I'll tell you what most people discover is this, is when they start going on their journey of lucid dreaming, at first they have some just incredible experiences. They can fly around, they can talk to dream figures, they can have lucid dream sex. But then when they start to realize that there's more to a journey here, probably the first thing that happens is they meet the shadow, or this is what Carl Jung called the denied, ignored, repressed aspects of the self. And so oftentimes the shadow is the thing that's chasing you in a lucid dream, the thing that you don't want to face. And that's why it's the shadow. It's in the shadow position. And so for some people, this is really a disturbing thing. But I think what's really trying to happen here is, in a lucid dream, you're being shown your shadow so that you can resolve it, so that you can come to peace with it. Because oftentimes that's where we'll meet our fears, our limiting beliefs, and all that kind of stuff. And so for most people, that would be, in a sense, the only danger, is they'll meet their shadow. But if they can resolve that shadow issue, oh, they'll have so much more energy in their life. And so actually it's a beautiful thing. So lucid dreaming may, for some people, when I give talks on college campuses, I often say, if you can't handle waking life, then you shouldn't get involved in lucid dreaming. Until you can handle waking life, you shouldn't get involved in another dream reality or something like that. And so I think that's basically the case, because if you're a person who really suffers from some issue, like, let's say, depression, you might become lucidly aware and all of a sudden meet a symbolic expression of the depression or something like that. And that might not be the most helpful things. But for 99.999% of the people, I think lucid dreaming is perfectly safe.
Yeah. Another question was from Albert van der Sluis, our friend from the Netherlands. He asked, I remember reading in Robert's book that he once used energy in the dream to summon and go see his friend Ed Kellogg. When we see our summoned friends and pets, are they dream characters, or are they the real deal?
Yeah, so again, this brings up some fundamental questions. What is the real Ed?